The second principle is we need to give absolute maximum flexibility that we can for local innovation, for people to work out the way that it works for them, to work out the way in which they're going to manage the business, to organise themselves, to begin to operate as quickly as possible in the new world way, to learn about what works and what doesn't work, so that when we get into 2012 and 13, we've been through that learning process. We need to have that flexibility and space to innovate. There's a harder edge of accountability in all this, of course, and autonomy and accountability, as we go through this, is the third principle. They need to be inextricably linked and transparently linked, so that we all know whose responsibility it is to do what bit, and we're holding each other to account. It's not a top-down thing. We're holding each other to account for what needs to be done. And the final principle that I would highlight is that this is about better quality for patients. It's about better value for the taxpayer as a product of that. It isn't about sectional interests. It isn't about organisational interests. It isn't about pulling up the drawbridges and patrolling the boundaries of organisations in order to step forward whilst turning somebody else over, whether it's your commissioner, your provider, your next door neighbour, whatever. We have got to take this change forward in a way in which we can demonstrate that we are all in our respective different roles and with different responsibilities, driven by that absolute commitment to quality and value. I talked at the start about the new interface with health and social care, and I mentioned the real term reduction in funding for local government, and of course social care is a very significant part of local government service delivery. The spend on social care services across England this year is somewhere in the order of £16 billion. And as part of the spending review settlement, there was additional money on top of the real term protection for the NHS, which is to go to social care. And it's later this week, actually, the National Conference for Adult Social Care takes place, and the Secretary of State will talk more about this and talk more about how the process is going to manage through the statutory structures of the NHS into social care providers. And I think that this mechanism is a really important one. We know, don't we, that if social care is losing funding and losing money, if local authorities are redefining their eligibility criteria, if local authorities are reducing the scale and scope of social care service, then the impact on the NHS is real and significant and straight away. And therefore, the way we worked hard on this in the build-up to the spending review, the way in which we have now that an amount of money which builds up to £1 billion during the spend review period. Some of it's on reablement services, and as you may know, we're starting this year with NHS taking on more responsibility, for patients for those 30 days post-discharge. And responsible for commissioning the reablement service that the evidence tells us getting that right has a significant impact on readmissions and so on. So that's important to us. That's part of this billion. But on top of that, there'll be money coming to each primary care trust immediately until the GP consortia take over to go into social care. And this mechanism is really important in bringing together health and social care around the table to recognise that we're roped together in a way we might wish we weren't, I don't know, but we are roped together in a way that what happens in one sector impacts directly on what happens in the other. And we think that this mechanism with dedicated money at the table will bring an accountability and a rigour to the way in which local agreements are put in place to secure services with this dedicated money going forward. And we have to take our responsibility in the NHS for making sure that we get that right in a way that works for patients crossing that health social care line, and that works for organisations locally, because the pressure on our systems will build significantly over the forthcoming years, and we need to be joined up with social care providers like we never have been before. And I think that that's a big risk for us as we think about managing not only the short-term transition but the medium-term preparation for the new world. So there's so much for us to do. I have to say I am optimistic about the future. I think that success will in large part depend on how we manage this next period. As I go round the service and talk to colleagues, I see nothing but a real determination to do the right thing for patients. People at all levels, at all parts of the service can see ways in which it can be made better. And I think that that's what liberating the NHS is about, to release those energies and ideas, to empower people, particularly clinical colleagues, to be able, whether it's in primary care or in acute and other settings, to be able to work together and get on and organise themselves and their services to get the quality improvements that we need is what the next few years is all about. My job and those of other managers in the service is to enable that to happen, is to find a way of steering through this transition period in a way that we're aware of the risks, we can plan for them, we can mitigate them, but in the end it's going to be our frontline colleagues across all parts of the system who have this real opportunity now to grasp the future. I am, Callum, optimistic about the future and the way we'll do that. We have to really put all our energies and efforts into rising to this challenge and making it work. Because if we're part of this, and if we do pull it off, which we'll just have to, then being part of change of this scale will be a significant experience and positive experience for all of us that will, I'm sure, enable us to meet whatever challenges we face going on from here with more confidence for the future. Thank you.